Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to do another fun, simple graphic design project today. We're going to be doing a snowflake using a radial pattern effect in Photoshop. Now, this is only going to work on the Adobe Photoshop program. It will not work on photop.com because photop.com does not have the symmetry tool. We're going to be learning how to use the symmetry tool today to create some fun little unique snowflakes since it's still winter, and I think that's something that we ought to be celebrating. So let me show you how we're going to start this. So we're going to be starting with a blank canvas. Honestly, you can make this canvas whatever size you want. Remember not to work too big because working on a very large canvas can make your computer run very slowly and makes it a little bit harder and takes a little bit longer to save. I'm working on a 5x7 canvas, and that should be a pretty good size for you as well. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a color on our background, and I'm going to use the gradient tool to create my color. So I'm thinking about a snowy sky because I'm going to be putting some snowflakes on here. My snowflakes are going to be white, so I do want to start with a background that has some color to it. Otherwise, I won't be able to see my snowflakes. So I'm going to find my gradient tool on my toolbar. It's hiding underneath my paint bucket. So I'm going to right click, grab my gradient tool, and then I'm going to create a new layer by clicking on the new layer button to make my gradient layer on. So you can see that when I've selected the gradient tool up at the top of my screen, I will have my toolbar that allows me to change the color of my gradient. On Photoshop, you actually have a bunch of preset gradients that you can start from, but you can also create your own gradient by simply clicking on that color bar and opening the gradient editor. This is where you can double click on these bottom squares right here to change the color that you want your gradient to be. I'm going to go ahead and just use one of these default colors. I am creating a snowy sky, and I think something out of the blues folder right here will look really nice. You guys can see that there's lots of different blue gradients to choose from. So I'm just going to choose the one that I think will make the best colors for my snowy sky. I'm going to go with this one right here. And then you guys can see that's kind of like a purple and blue kind of blending into each other. If I wanted, I could edit these colors just by clicking on the boxes, but I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now I'm going to click and drag my gradient tool across my canvas to create the gradient. Whichever direction I click and drag in will affect what the gradient looks like. So you can click and drag horizontally, you can click and drag vertically, or you can click and drag diagonally. It's kind of up to you and how you want this to look. I'm going to try doing it diagonally to see how that looks. And yeah, I like that. There's a little bit of purple coming out of the bottom corner, going up to that light blue in the top corner. And I think that looks really nice. So now I'm going to start my snowflake design, and I'm going to need to do this on another layer. So I'm going to go ahead and click the new layer button to make a second layer. And I'm going to be drawing my snowflake with the brush tool. So I'm going to locate the brush tool, and I am going to just pick a solid, hard brush with the opacity turned all the way up, the hardness turned all the way up. It's a pretty big brush right now, so I'm going to turn the size down. This is a snowflake, and I'm going to be drawing it kind of like I would draw a snowflake with a pencil or a crayon or a marker. So I don't want this brush to be too thick, so I'm going to turn that size down. That's pretty good. All right. So now I've got my brush, and I do want to make sure I'm using the color white because I'm going to be drawing my snowflake. Of course, we could just draw a simple snowflake just by clicking and dragging with our brush tool and making a snowflake like we would if we were going to draw it on paper. But I think we can make a much nicer snowflake by using the symmetry tool, and that's what I'm going to be showing you guys to do today. So I'm going to undo this drawing that I did because I think we can do better than that. So the symmetry tool will show up when you click on the brush tool, and you're going to be looking at the top of your screen, and you're going to go all the way over to the right hand side of your top menu here when you're using the brush tool. And you're going to see this little butterfly symbol. This is your symmetry tool. When you click on it, you can choose from a bunch of different symmetry options. The vertical option will allow you to create something symmetrical across this vertical line. The horizontal will do the same thing across a horizontal line. You also have dual axis, which means that you can draw something that will repeat in all four corners of your screen. And then you guys can see you have all different kinds of options here. So you can play around with this and choose which of these symmetry tools you think will work best for you. If you look down at the bottom, we actually have a radial symmetry tool and a mandala symmetry tool. And this will allow us to create a pattern in a radial or mandala shape. So this might be the best one to choose from. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that radial. It's going to ask me the segment count. And this is just basically how many little sticks you want coming out of your snowflake. I'm going to go with the default, which is 5, and I'm going to hit OK. So now this gives me this little screen right here. And what's going to happen when I get my brush tool and I draw inside of this little guideline right here, this is my symmetry guideline, is I'm just going to draw a stick and check that out. Isn't that cool? I'm just drawing one line, but it repeats itself in all 5 of these sections that I've created. And now I can go and I can add detail to my snowflake. And you guys can see how it repeats in every section. So you can start seeing how this is going to be creating a really cool pattern design for our snowflake. We can even go and make a shape just like this for a little diamond in the middle of our snowflake, and we can continue adding things to this design to create this snowflake pattern. You can kind of reach out and make these almost fractal-like designs for your snowflake. So once you like the snowflake that you've created using the symmetry tool, we're going to go to the move tool. And now we can move this snowflake shape that we've created. And I'm just going to shrink it down. And I'm going to put it up here in the corner. And now I'm going to make another snowflake. So I'm going to click on my new layer button, make sure I'm finished moving this snowflake. I'm actually going to tilt it a little bit. And now I'm going to make a new layer. So I've got one snowflake on layer 2. I'm going to make another layer and I'm going to make another snowflake, get my brush tool, go back to my symmetry tool, and I'm going to choose another symmetry tool from this list to make my next snowflake. I'm going to try doing the dual axis one this time. And you guys will see how now we've got this box right here that we can use as our guide. I'm going to get my my brush tool and I'm going to start drawing inside. So now you guys can see how this is creating a snowflake design using that different style of symmetry. All right, so you guys can use this to create all kinds of different snowflake designs, just depending on what direction you're drawing in, what kind of symmetry you've chosen to use, and you can create some pretty cool little repeated patterns here. Let's do something like this. All right, that's a pretty interesting looking snowflake. So again, I'm going to go back to my move tool. I can shrink this down and put it up over here. All right, so I'd like you guys to try to do at least 4 or 5 different snowflakes, creating a new layer each time you're creating a new snowflake. So when you're done, you should have something that looks like this. So you have 4 or 5 different snowflake designs, because remember, snowflakes are unique. Every snowflake that we see fall to the ground has its own unique pattern. So you want to make yours a little bit different each time you create a design. So I've got my snowflakes all arranged, each one is on its own layer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make one more new layer, and I'm going to get my brush tool, and I'm just going to I'm going to go ahead and turn this symmetry off since I'm not using it anymore. And I'm just going to go in with a couple of dots of just smaller snowflakes. So like these snowflakes are a little bit farther away from us, and make it look like a beautiful snowy sky. All right. So have fun with this. Come up with some really unique, fun snowflakes, and have fun getting to know this symmetry tool.